currently an Oxford PhD student, and today I'm going to show you all of the strategies that I use to go from being one of the worst students in my class to becoming one of the top students in my year with actually studying less. Tip number 1 is to organize a study schedule. What do I mean by that? So let's say you have an exam in 2 weeks, for example, in cancer research. So what often happens is that students start with one topic, but then halfway through their study time realize that they're running out of time, and then they try to cram everything in last minute, which obviously is a huge disaster. So we can be much more strategic about that. So for your next upcoming exam, I challenge you to take the topic of the exam and divide it into all of the subcategories that you need to know. And then for every subcategory, write down every single detail on what you want to focus on. And this has huge benefits. The first one is that you can actually now find out what is important and what might not be that important. But secondly, and more importantly, now that you know what to focus on, you can slot every single detail into a calendar. And this has huge benefits because now you know what to focus on every single day. So this eliminates the feeling of running out of time and feeling overwhelmed. Okay, moving on to tip number 2, which is to use active recall strategy techniques. What most students do, and I catch myself doing that all the time as well when I'm lazy, is to read textbooks, highlight texts, or type out little paragraphs that you've just read. But this is actually the worst thing that you can do. And unless you have a photographic memory, it is very likely that you won't remember anything of what you've just read the next day. And that's because this is passive learning. It tricks your brain into thinking that you're being productive, but actually the brain barely does any work. So instead, you want to try to incorporate as much active learning as you can. And yes, it requires a lot more brain power, but it can actually be kind of fun if you do it the right way. One of the most commonly used techniques are flashcards, and they're super effective. And why they work so well is that you have the question on one side, and then you have to actively think about the answer. And you can even gamify it a little bit. For example, if you get 10 flashcards right, you get a piece of chocolate. Anything that works for you, to be honest. My personal favorite is to draw mind maps, but from memory. And the reason why this is so effective is because when you sit in your exam and you need this one specific information, but you have placed it somewhere in your mind map, during your exam you can kind of visualize and go along the branches in order to go to that information. So it creates this spatial memory, which really helps to retain information. Similar to that, you can also be a little bit more creative and make paintings, sketch out figures or diagrams. As long as you actively think about how you want to put this information on the paper in order for it to make sense, it's so effective for your exam because of the spatial memory that you create. And finally, which is probably a little bit more scary, is to actually explain it to someone else. Because it's one thing to kind of understand the information vaguely in your head, it's a whole nother thing having to speak it out loud. And it is really effective because once you have to verbalize your thoughts, you kind of understand what you're still missing. And it doesn't even have to be in front of a person. It can be in front of a mirror, in front of your pet, even a teddy bear. As long as you verbalize it, it is super effective. If you enjoyed this video so far, please drop it a like and subscribe, but let's move on. Okay, moving on to tip number 3, and this is so overlooked, but so important. You need to take care of your body during exam season. During exam season, I see so many students that stop sleeping, so they pull all-nighters. They stop eating properly, so they either don't eat at all or start eating fast food, and they stop exercising, all for the sake of studying better. But this is so counterproductive, and this is actually the worst thing that you can do. You have to start thinking as if your body was a supercomputer. It needs charge, it needs maintenance, it needs to be put into sleep mode, and your mind is exactly the same. If you don't maintain it well enough, if you don't give it sleep, it's going to burn out. And sleep is especially important because it's kind of like hitting save on all of these study hours that you've just done. And if you don't sleep, you actually waste so much time and energy on nothing. There's this one method that I use a lot during exam season, which is called the Pomodoro timer. It's a super simple method, and how it works is that you study for a very set amount of time, for example 25 minutes or 50 minutes, and then you have to have a mandatory break between 5 and 10 minutes. And then after the break, you study again. The important thing is that you take the break, even if you feel like you don't need it yet, because if you don't take a break, your study efficiency will go down with time. That's just how it is. But if you implement these mandatory breaks, they act as little recharge sessions for your brain, which will boost your efficiency quite a lot. So you will be able to study efficiently for a lot longer. And it also helps you to avoid burnout, which, you know, you would want to do during exam season because it's so easy to burn out. And there's actually a lot of research about Pomodoro timers. So if you're interested in reading more about it, I will link some papers in the description down below. Cool, let's talk about the last one. And I think this one is so underrated, but it was the most helpful one for me that really helped me boost my grades during my master's. And it is to create small group study sessions. And with groups, I mean 3 to 5 people, not more than that. Group study sessions have so many advantages. Firstly, you get to explain the topic to other people, which we already have discussed is super beneficial because it helps you retain the information, but also it helps you to identify what you still need to focus on. Secondly, you can ask questions and have discussions with people. And this is so much more efficient and helpful than just doing a quick Google search, because if you want to know something and you Google the answer, you will forget it within minutes. But if you have a discussion with someone, you will remember that conversation. So when it comes to your exam, you will know exactly what the other person basically said. Thirdly, you can practice questions together and even do mock exams, which I can highly recommend. And then finally, for those who get easily distracted when you have to study by yourself, it kind of forces you to put the work in because you have these accountability partners and because you're in this together and you want to show up for your friends. But there you have it. These are the strategies that I use to massively boost my grades whilst also reducing my own study hours. If you enjoyed the video and liked the content and would like to see more videos like this, please give this video a like and also subscribe to my channel. But for now, I hope you're having a good day. I hope everything is going well with your studies, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.